Hello everyone and welcome to my next video about Chinese character etymology and phonetic series. In this series I'm going to talk about the phonetic series which are led by the character which is today pronounced in two ways. The first way to pronounce it is gun in the fourth tone, and the second way is gun in the third tone. So before I start the presentation, I would just like to thank you all guys for the support and all the views that I'm getting. I'm very happy about that. I also wanted to do a short introduction to those of you who are watching this videos in this series for the first time. What I'm talking about in this series are basically Chinese characters that are called Semantic Compounds, and these characters are a type of characters that are that consist of two elements. One of them is pointing to the sound, and one element of the character is pointing to the meaning. So basically all characters that you can see here, these gray characters, are phonosemantic compounds that if I just draw a line here, and you can see that they are separated into the left and right side, and on the right side you can see this huge character. Similarly on the in the second column, this character which is going to be the phonetic element in these characters, and so all these characters that you can see here are going to be pronounced similarly or in the exact same way as this title phonetic character that you can see over here. The dark green, dark blue characters that you can see on the left side, and this character over here is the seal script version of the corresponding character. And it is there just for the visual reference to show you what this character or what these characters were written, like what they looked like in 200 BC, because that is when these characters were created. The characters that you can see on the right side are called regular script characters, and they have been created roughly in the 5th century AD, so they are about 700 years older than these characters, but are the most recent ones that we use today. And we can say that there are heavy simplifications and formattings of this seal script. So the reason why I'm showing you these seal script characters here and this one over here is just to show you what the character used to look like before, because in some cases the regular script characters, the ones that we use today, are so heavily simplified and formatted that some elements are very obscure or hidden, and it's quite hard sometimes to understand the etymology and the history and the phonetic relations in the character. Alright, so to talk about the title phonetic character again, like I said, it has two possible pronunciations. The first one is gun, and in this case the meaning of the character is well, it's one of the trigrams, one of the 8 trigrams or trigrams. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that. If you don't know what the trigram is, I'm not going to be very helpful here because I'm not that skilled at explaining that, but maybe if I show you or if I write it to you on the on this screen, maybe you have seen this symbol somewhere before. Maybe possibly some of you have seen it on the Korean flag. There are 4 of them. They are of course different, so what a trigram is basically a I'm not sure if I can call it a tool, but it is a way, or it is a means of special forms of fortune telling and divinations according to the ancient Book of Changes. Now, it is a pretty complicated thing to do, so for me it will be even more difficult to explain how it works. If you like, you can go and look it up. This is a trigram. There are 8 of them, and they have their names, and one of them is called gun. And when so that is what this character stands for when it's pronounced gun in the 4th tone, and when it's pronounced gun in the 3rd tone, it means something like rough or disobedient or direct or something like that. And it is interesting that it has all these 3 slightly different meanings, because as we will proceed through the series, you will see that characters in the series, individual characters in the series, actually have only that one of those 3 meanings. So there will be one character that has one of the 3 meanings of gun, and then there will be another one which has another one of the meaning of gun. And it's pretty interesting because what is special about this character is that usually phonetic elements are chosen to be as phonetic elements in characters solely based on their sounds. And sometimes, in special cases, they are also chosen to be as phonetic elements in characters based on their meanings. Ideally, of course, it is both. So the phonetic element is in a character, in a different character, because it is pronounced in a similar way as the character that it is in, and ideally also because it means something similar to the character it is in. And so this gun phonetic element in some of these characters has both functions. Now, if we look at this one, the modern version or the regular script version of the character, we see absolutely nothing in it because it's a very heavy simplification and formatting of the seal script, which is this version of the character. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any Oracle bone script version of this particular character, which I usually write over here. And the seal script version of the character, there are two explanations as to what it is. So one of the explanations is that the character is actually a mirror image of the character Tian, which means to see something, or that it is, if I just sort of separate it like so, that it is an I, which is the top of the character, over a man reversed. Man in Chinese, if I'm correct, in the seal script, it used to be written something like this, and so basically it is a reversed man. And if we look at Chinese characters, and especially in the seal script, we can often see this tendency where reversed characters are the negative, have the negative meaning, where sort of like a negative shade to the original meaning of the character when it is not reversed. And so, according to some scholars, for instance, Bernhard Collergren, this character, the reversed Tian, or the reversed man, and the eye looking at the reversed man, means something like difficult to look at, or maybe crude, rude, or something like that. And the reason for that is that basically you're looking at a person who is not pleasant to look at. So the meaning difficult or difficult to look at is preserved in the pronunciation gun, because one of the meanings of the pronunciation gun, when this character is pronounced in the third tone, is difficult to look at, or disobedient, or something like that. This character is not a very frequent character as a standalone character in Chinese. In fact, prior to making this video, I didn't even know that there was a pronunciation of this character, which is gun in the third tone. But it is a very, very, very frequent and a very productive phonetic element in many characters, and I chose the most frequent ones that you can see on the screen now. So if we proceed through the series, and it's really a very productive series in terms of its sort of phonetic relation to the title phonetic element. As you will see, the rhymes of most of these characters are very directly pointing to the rhyme, or even to the exact syllable of the title phonetic element. So the first character is pronounced gun in the first tone, gun in the first tone, and its original meaning was, or is even, to follow. It is a verb. And the semantic element in it is this. I'm not even sure if I should always highlight this, because it is I think, very evident that whatever is left in the character, after you basically remove or look at this gun, whatever is left is going to be the semantic element. So this is pronounced zu in the second tone, and it is a foot, and it is clearly pointing to the meaning of the character, to follow. And I'm not sure if I should write all of this. Maybe I'll just write the meaning, follow. The second meaning of this particular character is more abstract, and it means it is a conjunction that can be roughly translated as with. For instance, if you say 我跟他去, I will go with him, right? But you can also say 我跟他说, which means I will tell him, and this with conjunction is sort of lost in that particular expression. So that's why I said that roughly can be translated as with. I guess sometimes it could be translated as and as well, but more so you could probably translate it like as with. The next character is also pronounced gun in the first tone, again, and it is its meaning is roots of something. That's the first meaning of this character. And the second meaning of the character is that it is a measure word. I'm going to use the number symbol for that. A measure word for things that resemble roots. So for instance, a branch of a tree has a gun measure word, but also I think a cigarette has a measure word, gun. For those who don't know what a measure word is, we have them in English as well. For instance, if you say a loaf of bread, a flock of birds, or I don't know, a piece of paper, a sheet of paper. So these things are measure words. They're not mandatory in English, but they're mandatory in Chinese. You have to use them every single time you want to use a noun, or I think if it's preceded by a number, then you have to use a measure word as well. The semantic element in this character is pronounced mu. Mu, and mu is wood or tree. Originally, it stood for a tree. It actually looks like a tree. Let me just write it. Well, I'm not sure if you can see from these 4 strokes that it looks like a tree, but it used to be it used to stand for the meaning tree, and then later on, I think, was sort of shifted to the meaning wood. The next character is pronounced hun in the second tone, so we have a little phonetic change here, hun, but still this section of the syllable is the same, except for the tone is different. Hun is a scar. Scar. And I think in this particular case, it is very helpful to have the seal script version of the character to do a little visual comparison, because, well, apparently this element over here is our phonetic element, so there's no need to talk about that. But the semantic element is very, it means sick. I think it's pronounced ni, but I'm not sure about that, so please correct me if I'm wrong. And it is the radical sick. And so if you look at these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strokes, and I tell you, okay, this means sick, and it will be very unclear to you, and I don't blame you, because that's the way it is. It is a very simplified version of this element over here in the seal script. And it is a bed with a person on it sideways. Now, maybe still a little bit obscure, but if I try to write it just here, like so, now it's not sideways anymore. And this little stroke on it, it was written sometimes like that, like earlier it was written like this. So now you can it resembles a sick man on a person, on the bed, much better than what we can see in the regular script version. And so that's the reason why I like these seal script characters, because really sometimes they're much more helpful in analyzing the structure of the character, as is the case over here. So again, hun means scar, semantic element ni, sick. The next character is very interesting, probably the most interesting character in this entire series. It is pronounced hun. Hun in the third tone, and it means very. Very. And originally, I looked up the definitions of this character, the oldest definitions that I could look up, and so I looked at a definition from 100 AD, and this character had actually 3 separate meanings at that time. It used to mean a lid or a cover of something. It used to mean to walk with difficulties, and it used to mean to be disobedient, or just basically to not listen to what others are telling you. And so I'm guessing that the original meaning of this character was to walk slowly, because the semantic element that is in it is pronounced ch. And again, I'm not too sure about the pronunciation, but I'm very sure that it means footstep. Footstep. And so that's why I'm just basically, based on the definition that I have from that dictionary from 100 AD, and based on the fact that we have this element footstep in it, I'm guessing that the original meaning of the 3 that I saw in that dictionary from 100 AD, the original meaning was to walk with an impediment. And then later, because of the way to walk slowly or walk with problems was pronounced in ancient Chinese, and the way that the word very, which is a very abstract concept, was pronounced in ancient Chinese, so these 2 words were the same or very, very similar. This character, which used to mean to walk slowly or walk with problems, was then being used for the meaning very. And then slowly that meaning to walk slowly was lost. And why I think this character is very interesting is that when we move on to the next character over here, this character is also pronounced hun. Hun. But it means disobedient, fierce, disobedient, sorry, obedient. I'm not a master speller, in case you haven't noticed so far, so let's just leave it unfinished there. Disobedient. And the semantic element in this character is this entire business over here, which is pronounced Chen. Chen. And it is a dog. Like, it doesn't look like a dog, but it represents a dog. And if you remember, I told you that one of the meanings of this character was disobedient, of the hun, of this, what we use as very today. One of the meanings, earlier meanings, was disobedient. So what I'm guessing that could happen was that this character was basically created to differentiate that little difference, so that there was a completely new character created for the meaning disobedient, and this character was then left to the meaning very, or possibly to the meaning to walk slowly, which was the meaning of that character earlier. By the way, the standalone version of this element, this semantic element over here, Chen, is written like this in modern characters. And again, if you look at the seal script version of the character, it is much more well preserved, like much more preserved than, let me just, so that you can see it, let me delete the highlighting. If you look at this, let me just write that again. If you look at this character, and if you look at this section of this character, you would probably have a hard time telling that it's actually the same thing. But if you look at this character and this section of the character, at least for me, it is much more evident that this element over here and this element are the same. All right, let me just write this. So it's Chen. In the third tone, it means dog. Of course, dog today in modern Chinese is Go. Quan is the way, or is the character that used to be used to represent the word dog earlier on. The next character in the series is pronounced hun in the fourth tone. So far a very productive series, right? All of the characters are pronounced with the same final in the syllable, en final, right? There will be a change soon, but at least these 6 characters are. And hun means to hate. Hate. And the semantic element in it is this over here, which is pronounced xin, and it's a heart. And if you've watched my previous videos, or maybe you know this from elsewhere, if you have this semantic element in characters, it usually points to meanings that have something to do with emotions, or characters that are of abstract meaning. And this character is also, it's very useful to see the seal script character and have it there for a visual comparison, because Xin as a standalone character is written like this. And so clearly, if you look at this and then this sort of formatted, simplified version of it, they're not very similar. But in the seal script, the contracted version, or I probably shouldn't even call it a contracted version, if the Xin character is written as a part of another character, or if it's written as a standalone character, its shape does not change at all, which is practically useless for us today because we don't use the seal script anymore. But if we were to use the seal script ever, like now, or had we been using it 2,000 years ago, it would be much easier for us to understand that the characters and the etymology and the of characters that had this element in them, because it would be exactly the same. It would have the same shape as when it would be written as a standalone character. The next character, and this is when finally we have a difference in pronunciation, is pronounced Xian. Xian. It means to limit. to limit something. 限制, it means, it just means to limit something. And the semantic element in it is this thing over here, which unfortunately I don't know the pronunciation of, but it is a small hill, a heap of a pile of something, a pile of soil, most probably. So pile or heap. And so it is clearly the semantic element pointing to the meaning. And one thing that I wanted to sort of point out here is that even though when we write it in pinyin, if we write the pronunciation of this character in pinyin, we use Xian, and if we look at the pinyin of the title phonetic element, which is Gen, you could ask me, well, how do these two characters phonetically relate when there is only one letter that is the same? Pinyin is very, very deceiving, and I wrote an article about this. Pinyin is very deceiving in some situations, and this is one of them. Of course, if you look at the pinyin only, then arguably, and I would have to say that you're right, there is only one letter that is the same. But forget about the pinyin. If I say xian and I say gun, then yan are very similar today, which means that 2,000 years ago, or maybe even more, they were even more similar in their pronunciation. So gun is really a very productive phonetic element in xian, even though it doesn't look like that if you look at the pinyin and even if you listen to the pronunciation, maybe. But it really is a very, very productive phonetic element. The next character in this series is pronounced Jian. Jian. And it means sort of difficult or troublesome. Difficult. Troublesome. And the semantic element in this character, which again, I'm not exactly totally sure what it's pronounced. I know it means drought. Drought. So drought is the semantic element pointing to the meaning of the character difficult. We can find this character, for instance, in the word 艰难, which means difficult to carry out, a difficult task, something like that. The next character is pronounced yin. Yin. In the third tone, and it is an I. I. The semantic element in this character is this part over here. It's pronounced mu. Mu. And it is an I. It is an I, but not in the modern sense. We don't use this word as in Chinese. You can really find this word with the meaning I, except for some older expressions and maybe some chengyu, which is this 4-character set phrase, or maybe in some fixed expressions and so on. But this really is the character that used to represent I earlier on. It used to be or is still pronounced mu, and is the semantic element in this character. And the last character is pronounced yin. Yin. In the second tone, and it means silver. You can find it in the word bank, for instance, 银行, right? It means silver, and the semantic element in it is this part over here, which is pronounced 金, 金, and is a metal. Metal. Now, one more thing that I wanted to add is that this character and this character are the traditional versions of writing these characters. So this character over here has its left part simplified and is written like this, the simplified part. And this character over here also has its left part simplified, which is completely simplified down to these 2 strokes. So, by the way, and if you only see this standalone character, it is pronounced yo. Yo, and it means hand, right? Also, it means again and many other things, but originally this is how you used to write hand in Chinese, and in many characters, if you see this character, it is a hand, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the meaning difficult. So if you see this, if you see the simplified version of this character, which has this element in it instead of this one, then it is absolutely impossible for you to get to the bottom of its etymology or its history. And so that's why I prefer traditional Chinese characters. All right, so this is it for this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.